Hi guys, in this video I'm going to teach you how to draw hands. Alright, you may be going, oh, hands are so hard, hands are terrible. But instead of groaning, you should be thinking, this is such a great opportunity. I'm going to learn how to draw hands when they've been so hard in the past. Maybe Mrs. Larson, being the genius that she is going to have some helpful tips for me. And I do. Okay. Also with this unit, it's not necessarily about how to draw hands, it's about the strategy. I'm teaching you drawing strategies that you can apply to drawing anything. This strategy is called straight lines before curves. Okay. When we draw curved lines first, curves are hard to control, and we tend to just exaggerate the curves, and we get something that ends up like a noodle hand or a squid hand or what is that thing? A T-Rex claw. Okay, is this familiar? When you draw hands, you end up something that looks like a claw or a squid. Okay, so we're gonna draw hands with straight lines first. And the reason this works so well with hands is because the hands have a lot of bones in them, okay? And so if we draw those straight lines first, we're gonna get that bone structure, and then you'll find that you barely have to just round some things out to make it look like a hand. So let's start. Okay, so in class we're using the page protectors and the marker to go over it. If you are at home, you can print off your picture and draw right over your picture. This method actually is pretty easy to do on like computer software. So on Google Draw or on Paint, you could get a digital image and draw right over the top digitally if you want to do that. Or if you aren't going to do either of those, then you'll skip this first step, but it does help to see me do it. Okay, so I'm going to simplify, simplify, simplify all of these drawing strategies. I hope you're finding a similar theme, that we start simple before we draw the detail. So, and then anything that's a curve, I'm going to simplify to a straight line as well. So I'm going to outline this hand, not focusing on any detail, even this slight bend right here. I do not need that right now, okay? I just need simple, straight lines, okay? Now, I do want you to outline the front. That was kind of a curve. I didn't mean to curve that. It's slippery, okay? The front and the back of each finger. Okay, now on the tips of the finger where it's round, you can simplify it to a straight line, or you can just make a point. So you can usually just simplify it down to 2 lines. Okay, and this finger to a point. You can even simplify it and just cut it off, and then later you can round it out. But that really bugs some students, I've found, when I do that. So that finger is kind of flat on the end. So still separate the fingers from each other. Lots of times students simplify so much they only do an outline. We still want individual fingers. Okay, but I don't need any fingernails, I don't need wrinkles, I don't need shading. I might add a couple structural things that might help. Some people like to have a line for the wrist, or they like to have maybe this line right here. This is kind of a major part of the thumb, okay? It's not necessarily a detail, it is structural. Oh, and I'm forgetting one spot. Okay, now let's talk about drawing hands. So I'm going to take this out of the page protector, flip over my reference so I can just see a simplified outline. Okay, couple tips on drawing hands just in general, before I draw this hand. So a lot of people, when they forget hands, they forget that there's a palm. Okay, so lots of times when I just draw the structure of a hand, I start with a palm. The thumb is separate from the rest of the fingers, does its own thing, okay? And then the fingers themselves, the ends of them are in a curve. The reason is because the one in the middle is the tallest, and then they get shorter from there. Okay, the other thing about fingers is that they're not tubes or parallel lines. So a lot of people draw their fingers like this, rounded on the end, and then like that. Fingers are wider at the base, okay? So you may have noticed right there on my little hand drawing, this finger is wider down here where it touches the palm, and it goes to a slight point. Okay, so some things to look for while you're drawing your hand. Okay.
Hey, all you awesome.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I'm going to draw this actual hand using these straight lines. And I'm also going to use my pencil as a tool to help measure angles. Okay, so I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I always want to start somewhere easy. You know, you don't want to just jump into the most detailed, hardest place first. And I'm going to use my pencil as a little tool to help me get my angles correct. Do you see this? I'm lining up my pencil with this angle. I'm holding it very still, and then I kind of memorize that angle, and then I touch it, and then I draw it, and then I can always check back later for accuracy. Okay, and distances and lengths are kind of important as well. So I don't use anything specific for measuring that except for my eyes. But if you want to get exact about it, sure, you can measure your distances as well. I don't recommend busting out a ruler. I just feel like is gonna take you that's a very finicky process when I think you can judge distances with your eyes. Okay, all right, so now before I get to the hard stuff, I'm gonna go on to the other side of the wrist. Lots of times if you just work your way around, you'll end up over here and you're like, whoa, my wrist is way too big. So let's get some things established before we get those fingers. I like to kind of close in on the fingers, like get everything else drawn first. And then my space that I have left is left for my fingers. So it kind of creates a smaller space where I'm like, okay, well, I know my fingers need to fit in within this space. Okay, so, and then I'm going to simplify all these fingers down to one simple angle as well. So anytime you can simplify and get things mapped out so you know things are going to be in the right place, that's a good idea. Okay. All right, so from there, then I can start on the other stuff. So I'm going to do my thumb because I know where it starts. It needs to start right here near this corner. And as you're drawing the smaller angles, you don't have to check every angle as you draw it at this point. I can kind of eye it because it's much smaller of an area. It's easier for me to just gauge with my eyes. Okay, and then my fingers. One good thing to do is kind of space out all three of your fingers first. Okay, now pinkies there, ring fingers there, middle fingers there. And then I can add the detail of the knuckles. Okay, if you haven't already, actually let me just finish drawing. You can pause the video and start this process. So if you are at home and you do not have the supplies to print your picture, and you don't have a page protector or anything, you will just be looking at your photograph like this on the computer, still drawing in this style, still trying to simplify as you go, still checking angles. Me as a trained artist, I don't do the page protector step. Okay, I do just look at a picture, but I still use my pencil to check angles. I still simplify. It's just a little bit harder possibly for you people who are beginners, that you don't have the page protector step. Okay, pause the video, go ahead and draw your hand using straight lines before curves, and then when you're done, when you get to this step, resume the video because I'm going to show you what to do next. Okay, next step is you probably did the techniques, you drew straight lines, you checked your angles, and still maybe it's not totally accurate, okay? That's just life, that's just drawing. So at this point, critique is very important. Putting down your pencil and just playing that game, spot the difference. Look at the two and try and spot differences between your reference and your drawing. So I'd like you to pause the video at this point and spend some time just critiquing my drawing before I just point out what's wrong with it. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video and you notice some things that are wrong with my drawing. I am noticing this thumb doesn't look long enough. Okay, I can tell that because this distance is way too long right there. Okay, I also feel like my hand is kind of narrow, like more, not wide enough, kind of skinny this way, too long this way. So let's talk about changing things. So I can easily change the length of my thumb. And that's going to make my drawing better. Can I easily change the width of my hand? I don't know. Maybe I could add a little bit over here and a little bit right there and change the width of the wrist a bit. But even if it's not perfect, let me show you how imperfect I am at drawing, okay? Let me show you what this looks like. Okay, so in no world does this like perfectly line up at all, okay? Anytime I align some parts of it, other parts are off, okay? This shows you and me that I am not a perfect drawer, and that's okay. I'm human. I'm not a copy machine. I'm not a camera. I'm not a computer. That's okay, all right? It doesn't have to look exactly like it. However, is this a decent looking hand so far? Yeah. Can I tell it's a hand? Yeah. So as long as it's decent, no mistakes are too distracting that make it kind of weird looking, then you're good to go. All right, so go ahead and pause this video and take a minute to critique your drawing. Okay, while you guys were critiquing your drawing, I fixed my thumb a little bit, okay? All right, next step is now you can remove your page protector. You don't have to worry about straight lines before curves. And now you can actually start making it look like a hand. So you can curve things, you can add your fingernails. And I just want to show you how like little you have to actually curve things. So here I have my finger totally straight across. All I need to do is just round it out a bit and it looks like a normal looking finger. So this is what I'm talking about, how when we draw curves, we just totally exaggerate them. They're just hard to control. But when we draw with straight lines first, it gives our drawing structure, and then we just build our curves on top of that structure, and it's way easier. Curves, they just have a mind of their own, and they don't listen, and they do their own thing, and so let's just, not deal with them. So I'm just drawing darker on top. I'm not even erasing. Hopefully you drew your sketch pretty light. Because that's a good practice to get into. Drawing lightly makes it so you don't have to erase so much. Your mistakes aren't permanent. Don't permanently damage your paper. And you can build on top of your drawing. So that light sketch that I had underneath was just the foundation. Now that I'm drawing things actually, I can press a little bit harder. And then fingernails. Fingernails. What advice do I have on fingernails? Pay very close attention to distances, where they are in relation to the edge of the finger. Okay, how much of the edge of the finger is showing on all sides. This thumb is at an angle, so I have more of my finger showing here than I do over here. Okay, so just pay attention to the orientation of where that nail is. In relation to the edges of the fingernail, and in relation to the edges of the finger, and that'll give you some really good clues about where to draw those fingernails. Okay, I'm going to keep working on my drawing. Basically, you have the idea, so you can go ahead and continue on your drawing, and you can get as detailed as you want. Add shading, add fingernails, but we spent 2 class periods on this, so if you spend about an hour on it, you can call that good and submit it to Canvas. Okay, thanks for watching.